And we are live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HRC meeting, August 5th, 2020. Kelly, do you mind doing roll call?
Yes. Pat Cannon.
Here.
Chuck Grigsby. Chuck.
Here.
Thank you. Crystal Davis Dunn.
Here.
Karen Honey.
Here.
Carla McWhirter.
Here.
Liz Miller.
Here.
Fasten Sardar.
Here.
Quentin Tyler.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Aaron Stevens is going to make an announcement.
Great. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Is this okay? Okay, good. Sorry, I have Comcast internet that is being very unstable right now, so I apologize if I cut out at any point. But I wanted to make this call. I was asked to talk about this at the beginning of the meeting, and this does not include any of the council liaison comments, but as some of you may know, Talise Murray moved out of the city limits recently and is therefore not eligible to serve on the Human Rights Commission as of now. And that's, I really wanted to thank Talise for all of her service. She's done a heck of a lot of good for this commission, and I mean, I can't speak highly enough of her. I've been a job reference for her for I don't even know how many positions, because that's how much I truly do believe in her. And from the minute that I met her, when I appointed her probably 2 years ago now, I knew that she was going to lead this commission in a really, really great direction. And so I'm proud to have served with her, and she's a good friend, and so she is not going to be lost from, I think, these discussions moving forward. But just really wanted to thank her for her service. But that is my announcement.
Thank you, Aaron. All right, I have some comments about that too, but I think that before we do that we will, I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda for tonight. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Carla. All in favor of approving the agenda for this evening?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
35 miles per hour.
All right, the agenda is approved, and I will also, just to save time, make a motion to approve the minutes from the July meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look at those? And if so, can I have a second?
This is Quentin, second.
Okay. Any comments or thoughts before we vote? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes from the July meeting, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the minutes from last month's meeting are approved. And sorry, I am looking for the agenda. Okay, under written communication, I have a letter, an email from Interim Police Chief Gonzalez, and that is on the agenda if anybody would like to reference that. Shelley, is there anything else under written communication?
That is it, Karen. I will note that commissioners received an email communication from this afternoon, and it was kind of too late to put to the agenda at that point.
Okay. At this time, it is time for public comment. And Justin, do we have anybody for public comment?
We do. If you give me just one moment, I'm making sure that the captions are working and I'm on the phone with support. So I
Okay.
want to give just a second to try to get captions up so that our community members can fully engage in this meeting.
Okay, thank you. I just
and I
want to
just-
remind people that public comment is limited to 5 minutes. And what I would prefer is that we let the callers have their whole 5 minutes. And then if you have questions or comments or feedback, just write them down and we will respond after the 5 minutes. Unless someone has a burning question that really needs to be asked in the middle of the person's comments. I think it'll run smoother if we let them go through their comments and then we respond. So as long as that sounds good with everybody, that's what we'll try to do. Okay.
I hate to interrupt, but if you're not talking, can you please mute your it's a lot of background, please.
Yes. Yeah, I'm hearing background too.
Hey, just as a point of clarification, I did just get a reach out from somebody in the community. Could we have the number and meeting ID read out for folks that are trying to call in?
Yep, I can do that. I just sent that out as well. So
Thank
the,
you so
the
much.
phone number, it is available on the city's website, but the phone number is 312-626-6799. And then the meeting ID number is 882-9017-6342.
You have that read one more time? That's great.
Phone number 312-626-6799. Meeting ID number 882-9017-6342.
Thank you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Sorry, folks, just one more minute. Captions should almost be up and running again.
Thanks, Justin.
Excuse me, Shelley. I don't hear anybody talking. Are you there?
Yes, we are there and it is completely silent. We are waiting for closed captioning to get back online.
Oh, okay. There's nothing I did.
It's no.
By the way, I think we have solved my mystery of why I keep dropping out of these Zoom meetings. According to an IT techie person, that there was a circular feedback going on. So thinking that the headset and microphone will solve that problem. So far, so good.
Excellent. Yep, you sound really good.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. You have the DJ voice, though. It's part of your resume.
Do you have any requests?
Do you sing as well?
No.
Thank thank you everybody for your patience while we make sure our closed captioning is available before we start taking public comment. I appreciate it. Welcome to the world of Zoom meetings.
All right, should be just 1 minute. I had to reconnect the token. Okay, I believe we might be close to having this fixed. So I'm just talking to make sure that the captioner can write something so that I can see if they're coming up on the screen. Okay. Okay, thanks for your patience, everyone. It looks like our captions are back up and running again.
Thank you, Justin.
All right, let me switch modes back to public comment mode so that I can run through the list of callers. All right, so it looks like the first caller that we have is phone number ending in 485. Again, that's 485. You are able to address the commission.
Hello, commissioners. This is Lisa Babcock, and I wanted to let you know that I'm just listening in. I know that you have police reforms on your agenda, and I am very eager to hear your suggestions. Also, any of you are welcome to email me at any time. Email is the best way to reach me. And of course, you have a superb liaison in Mr. Stevens. So that's all. Good luck. Have a good night.
Thank you, Councilwoman Babcock.
Okay, the next phone number is ending in 980. 980.
Hello, my name is Janelle Cannon, And I'm calling in to ask the Human Rights Commission to please start considering a resolution for Reparations Act, which has been introduced in Congress, and I believe Congressman Lewis is a co-signer and a sponsor of that bill. And there are other councils around the country who are doing this. And given our historical makeup of our council now, and given where we are in time, where we are going to be going through a total reconstruction of our budget in this country, if things go favorably and more liberal persuasions control both houses of Congress, I think there is a very strong possibility that the Reparations Act will be passed. And I think it would just be wonderful if the city of East Lansing was at the vanguard of that as well. Now, as a white woman who will be 67 this fall, why am I in support of this? Throughout history, you know, the vanquished have always been taken care of by those that they were conquered by. In more recent times, you can look to how Congress has promised to take care of Native Americans. Of course, they still fall short of that. You can look to Alaska when they built the Alaska pipeline. The tribes had to give up land, and in compensation for that, they get part of the profits from oil companies. That is a reparation. And after the Civil War, nothing was given to families of former slaves. And the ramifications of that have echoed generation after generation after generation. Families denied the opportunities to build wealth, to pass down assets to generation after generation. It is so endemic in our society, we barely can notice it as a white person, but I do. And I regard it as a fatal flaw in our democracy. And until we recognize the damage that was done and is ingrained in our democracy, until we recognize that and make reparations for it, I don't see us being able to continue to deny this. You know, and contemporaries may say, well, why would I support that? I had nothing to do with slavery. This is true. But you have, if you are born one of white privilege, you have been benefited generation after generation after generation of white privilege. And you have been extended opportunities not given to families of color. And I just think it's the right thing to do. And I would hope that you would give serious consideration to supporting that. And I stand ready to do research or anything else I can do to help the Human Rights Council and the City Council move forward on that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have another?
Still on the line?
Yes, we've got two more. One.
Okay.
Yes. All right. The next phone number is caller ending in 291. 291, you may address the commission.
Thank you. Acting Chair Honey, and members of the East Lansing Human Rights Commission. My name is Nell Kunmich. I live at 812 Applegate Lane in East Lansing. I want to first say I appreciate the hard work you all have been doing as volunteers in our community. The work you're doing is made even more challenging by the recent historical developments in our community, our state, our country, and in our world. This evening, you are considering the agenda item report from Mr. Yaden to the East Lansing City Council in reference to some proposed modifications to East Lansing Ordinance number 1491, specifically to amend or delete a number of disorderly conduct provisions. That agenda item report is scheduled on the council agenda for August 11th. Earlier this spring, pre-COVID, there was a discussion at the council table on March 9, 2020, about reviewing East Lansing ordinances to address concerns that had been raised about police discretion that might lead to questionable arrests and/or interactions with the public. Recently, I learned of this proposed agenda item, and then I learned just last evening that the City Council as a whole did consider this proposed revision at its regular meeting of June 6, 2020. The members of the council spent a good deal of time thoughtfully reviewing this ordinance on June the 6th to come up with the proposed modifications in the Liaison agenda item report. Their work product is a very good start. After watching their discussion last evening, I had a better understanding of the reasoning for some of the proposed modifications, and therefore I changed my suggestions to the council just today for consideration or possible consideration of further work on this ordinance. I have also sent those through Shelley to all of you. My suggestions are an effort to further limit areas where I think reducing the discretion of the police would be helpful in community police relations. For instance, in those provisions where failing to follow the command or directions of a police officer is a violation of the ordinance, I suggest the word, quote, lawful, unquote, be used to assure the officer is using a lawful direction or command, which requires compliance with the ordinance. Another area which allows a great deal of discretion is where a violation is created for engaging in obscene or indecent conduct. There are other areas of our ordinance on disturbing the peace, which make swimming in the nude, as well as exposing one's buttocks, genitalia, or a woman's breasts, violations. Taken as a whole, all three of those seem to be centered on public nudity. I think the term indecent and the term obscene leave far too much discretion, and I think it would be good to simply prohibit all three of those kinds of violations under prohibiting the exposing of one's buttocks, genitalia, or a woman's breast. I need not list all of my suggestions. You have them to review should you choose to do so. However, I also realized as I reviewed these proposed modifications that the Human Rights Commission, as an advisory body to the Council, could play a valuable role in looking at these proposed changes and considering making suggestions to the Council in regard to this proposal. The HRC could also assist the Council by reviewing and making changes to, or recommended changes to other ordinances, such as those addressing traffic enforcement efforts. So my suggestion to you this evening is to consider commenting on the proposed modifications to Ordinance 1491, specifically the provisions addressing disturbing the peace, and that you ask the Council for a delay in any action on this item in order to allow your body or a designated subgroup of the Human Rights Commission to review the proposed modifications to determine whether or not they would like to support them or support consideration of the Council for some further modification. Okay, I would also like the Human Rights Commission to consider requesting Council to direct them to review other ordinances, including the traffic enforcement ordinances, to make recommendations to Council for their further consideration. Council has a great deal of work to do at its August 11 meeting. They've done a very good job on this proposal. Still, I believe their proposal would benefit from the HRC providing further consideration to this important work. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Kuhn-Lynch. We have that on the agenda, so we will be discussing that a little bit later in the meeting. I did want to follow up to the caller before Ms. Kuhn-Lynch, and I'm so sorry I did not write the name down, but I did have a council member or a commissioner say that she would like to follow up on that. So I just want to make sure that we have contact information for that caller. So Shelley, did you get the name?
I have contact information for Janelle, as well as I'm pretty sure somebody on the call, namely Pat, might have some contact info for Janelle.
Okay, that's great. So that's definitely something that we will, have a conversation about in the future, and something that I think we're all interested in discussing. So thank you very much. I meant to respond to that caller and I didn't. So, all right, Justin.
Okay, the last caller on our list is phone number ending in 963. 963, you may address the commission.
Hi, this is Alice Drager. Just a couple quick points. I wanted to thank Mayor Stevens for reading off the phone access numbers. They were not printed on the agenda for today, so you would have had to know to go to the separate electronic meetings page in order to get access. So I appreciate that, and I encourage people to do that at every meeting to make it more accessible for people to be able to find those phone numbers. Secondly, I've noticed that the captions, while being extremely helpful for a lot of different people, including myself when I'm doing reporting, they don't actually seem to indicate who is talking at a given moment, and the delay can make that really confusing. I realize it's probably not feasible for Token to indicate who is speaking, but it might help if before people speak, they spoke their names, because then that would become part of the caption. So that was just a suggestion that I had. I also, just as an aside, find it funny that the name of the people doing captioning for you is Token. Third, I was hoping you might speak to the communications from the police in item 2.1. Maybe you're going to do that in communications from commissioners. It would be helpful to have more information on what was presented by the police. For example, it refers to officers who show up several times in complaints, but it doesn't indicate who those officers were. Eli continues to try to get information from the police and from the fire department, and it has not always been easy. So any assistance you can provide in obtaining information about these kinds of things would be very helpful. And finally, I have absolutely no problem with the idea of changing the name from Human Relations to Human Rights, and I know council is poised to do that if they haven't already done it. But I tried, because I'm a historian and I was curious to figure out why the commission used to be, or has been called, Human Relations, and whether or not that was meant to have a different meaning than human rights. What I found was that these terms have often been used interchangeably or together for different cities, but that a lot of cities use the term human relations. And as far as I can tell, the idea is to encompass something broader than what is conceived as human rights, because human rights are conceived as a sort of very strong idea, and human relations is meant to be a sort of softer notion of reaching across disparities and barriers. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I just want to make sure we keep an eye on thinking about the ways in which the term human rights might not adequately capture the imagination of some of the folks who are watching what you're doing. And that was all my comments. Thank you very much. You can mute me now. Thank you.
Karen Honey, I like your suggestion about trying to identify ourselves, Ms. Drager. So thank you for that suggestion. And I will take under advisement your thoughts about the name change. So thank you for the phone call. Do we have any other callers?
No, that is the end of our public comment list.
Okay, so let me get back to my agenda. I think next on the agenda is, hold on. Liaison, or no, I think, hold on, I'm sorry. I have all these things open on my screen. Here we go. We have council liaison comments.
Thank you very much. And just as a side note, to one of the callers or Alice's calls point, I have been recently trying to read off the numbers for people that are joining into the meeting, and I do think it's a good practice. I think that, it offers a little bit of a gap, right, between people that are just kind of signing on. I do think it's a good thing. So I think it also encourages folks to call in too, that might be just listening and not necessarily knowing. Council liaison comments. So I've got a few things for you. So as many of you are aware, we did go through a process to appoint 2 new council members. Those 2 new council members are Ron Bacon and Dana Watson. Again, I want to thank everybody that was involved in the process. One of your commissioners here included, who has done a great service to the community, and that should be absolutely recognized. It was not an easy process to go forward with. And yeah, I'll pause for that because I think he deserves it. Not an easy process by any means. We're going through the motions, I guess, right now on getting these folks sworn in and getting them onboarded, and we're moving forward. I will also say that we're going to have a public conversation about commission assignments, and I would argue that like a good half of the people that called in on the question and when we asked what commissions would you like to be assigned to, said the HRC. And I am with my new role. I don't want to say that this might be my last meeting. However, I do want to make sure that in case it is, if somebody makes a very strong case for prying my favorite commission away from me, I'd be open to that, given some other folks' experience and some of their perspectives that I think are very valuable. And I'm happy to take a back seat to that. But if that does happen, I did want to take kind of a moment to say just how proud I am of this commission. Before I was on council, I was an HRC commissioner. And I think that we've really transformed this commission into, a policy suggesting board. I mean, today, right now, we're reviewing a policy that's coming before council, which is awesome. It is not something that I saw while I was on the HRC before I began on the council. I think you guys are pushing agendas. You guys are disagreeing with, council decisions. I think it's all really great. And it's what the HRC should be. I have full faith in all of you and the leadership that's on this board. And I just want to say, if it is my last meeting, that it was an honor working with every single one of you, and that won't stop. So thank you all for everything. That again, we're going to have a public meeting on it, but I know that some folks are going to make some strong cases, and I don't know if I want to step in the way necessarily. So again, thanks everybody for honestly everything. Okay, I will not get emotional on that, but moving forward, you guys do have an ordinance that is going to be considered at next week's meeting on your agenda. What we basically did, thank you, Liz. What we basically did is we went through line by line during that council meeting. And we just, we really tried to address some of what I thought were the deficiencies and, areas of vagueness in that ordinance that is very, very long. So looking forward to hearing what your perspective is on it. I will also say that my internet connection has been going in and out. I have actually joined and unjoined the meeting about 3 different times. So if I do sign off at some point, I will be attempting to sign back in, but that is the reason why. I will now kind of pause and take any questions that any folks have. Okay, then seeing none, then I'll move it on to staff.
Staff liaison comments. Shelley, do you have anything for us?
Just briefly one, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Talise Murray for her service with the HRC. She did a lot of good work, and I appreciate her time and her commitment. And that's all.
Okay. We are at commissioner comments. So just, I guess, raise your hand if you got some comments. Who would like to start? I've got some comments, but I can wait till the end. So does anybody have any comments, anything they'd like to say?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, my internet's been messing up as well. Yeah, I always got comments. You guys should know that by now. But I just wanted to speak to the written communication from the Deputy Chief Gonzalez. First off, the memo that we got. I'm very disappointed in the information that was presented on there. It was very vague and not informative. I left reading that with more questions in regards to the previous questions we had back in January, I believe. I think we had over 50 questions. Do you still have a copy of those questions per se, Karen or Shelley, by chance? Do you have that list of the actual questions that we asked back then?
Shelley?
To my knowledge, I do not, Chuck. And I checked in with Talise, and she indicated that she thought that the police were keeping the ongoing question list. And those were the questions that Interim Chief Gonzalez had recorded from that meeting. I can go back and look to see if something was missed, or if you have something, Chuck, I'd be happy to, we can provide them with that.
Yeah, the challenge I have with that is, one, we had a different format for that particular meeting. You were writing notes down. We didn't have Zoom recording everything. And I know our former chair was really keeping track of those questions. And I know we had so much go on in between there that I fear that those specific questions will never be answered in the context that we had as far as the number of questions. But the information that was presented, I still think is sufficient to giving us what we need to have some of the basic questions answered. And I could possibly talk with something offline about kind of really the problems I have with this particular document, but it does not list any names. It does not go into specifics of the case in itself for us to understand what was going on or what didn't go on. But I wanted to bring that up as a point of concern. I had talked with the vice chair today, I don't know if we can get a list or information together in a way where then we can have Deputy Chief spend some of his time with us on our next meeting or the following one, so we can kind of readdress some of the different things and maybe look at the previous complaints that we had back in there, so we can maybe go through as a council, or as a commission, and just try to line item some of those basic things that we wanted to know from back then. So I also wanted to move on from that. I know we'll probably do this, but I wanted to welcome Crystal Davis Dunn to the commission. She has been out there with me on the streets, advocating for others and doing the work, and she's been doing that on her own before our interaction. I'm just pleased to work with her going forward. She has definitely brings something to the table when it comes to this commission, and I believe that that we're lucky to have her volunteer her time in with us. I wanted to also say amazing job by Karen, Pat, and Liz on the ADA webinar. You guys did amazing. I was on there, and I was humbled, and I learned quite a bit of information that I thought I knew, and I just look forward to us as a commission doing some more of that type of interaction with the community, and just really giving them that information, to have a format of that. So when we talked about that previous to the meeting before, and just kind of having another outlet to the public, that hit the home run right out of the park. You guys did an amazing job on that. And I just was glad to be a part of that as a community member.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yes, absolutely. And then I just wanted to speak to, as we go forward, when we do these calls and we have communication from the audience, I would love to be able to have opportunity to respond. Janelle Cannon spoke, and I wanted to follow up with her with a couple of questions of what she had in mind or what some of the things she was thinking about. I didn't get a chance to do that. So just going further, if we can, if it's permissible, I would love to be able to ask follow-up questions to the callers in their call. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Who else? Liz?
Awesome, thank you. I want to both echo Chuck's welcome of Commissioner Davis Dunn. That's awesome, so excited to work with you and get to know you, even though it's weird on Zoom. And also echo just Chuck's, having some follow-up questions from the report on police recording. One of my specific questions was, we had asked about patterns of, and this was originally before we even heard from them, past complaints from officers. So if an officer received a complaint, were there from the last 5 years? Did that officer receive any other complaints? And so he gave us information just from that same calendar year, but it would, in establishing patterns of behavior, it'd be really helpful to have more historical data than just that one year. And just, yeah, so I would echo, bringing Police Chief Gonzalez back in to continue that dialogue would be really helpful. I wanted to give a shout out to Commissioner Tyler, who was just named one of the co-chairs for Michigan State's Task Force on Racial Equity. That seems like kind of a big deal. Congratulations. Really glad to have you represented over there. And I also had a couple of questions. Shelley, is there any update on the pending interviews for the new police chief?
There are no updates at this point. Nothing is scheduled.
Okay. And do we have any updates? I'm curious about the anti-bias and diversity training contracts. Can we know like how many bids the city received for that? Elaine might know more about that, but yeah.
We did. The bids closed, as you may know, on July 30, and we received 5 bids, some very comprehensive bids from people from out of state. Actually, the majority of them, I think 3 of them were from out of state and 2 of them were local. The D&I work group met and vetted those submissions, and we have submitted a recommendation to the city manager for consideration of awarding one of those contracts. So
awesome. Do we know when that will he bring that to council? Or?
Yes, he will bring it to council. It's slated for Tuesday, for the 11th of August, to take to council.
That's great. I'm thrilled that that's moved that you all were able to move so quickly after getting the bids. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been running. So we've been running, but it's good work, and I'm really excited about the submissions that we have, and I'm excited to make the recommendation that we did to the city manager for the group that we selected.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's it for me.
Thank you, Liz. Who else has got some comments or questions? I can't see everybody on my screen, so just go ahead and talk if I'm not seeing you.
I just forgot one thing, if I may take just one more moment.
Sure.
I just really want to personally thank Karen Honey and Liz Miller. You guys supported me throughout the process. Last 10 days here, kind of crazy, wild times, but I just everything that I do out here in the community, everything I do on the HRC, you guys go out your way to make sure that I know that you're behind me. And I really just appreciate you guys advocating for me here in the last 10 days or so. That meant a lot to me, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
I'll speak, and then if anybody else, we still have plenty of time for other people to speak. I'm going to echo a few things that other people said. I was equally frustrated and disappointed with the very limited written response from Acting Chief Gonzalez, and I certainly was left with more questions than answers. This really came last minute. So I would definitely recommend that we spend the next month before the meeting thinking about follow-up questions, what we want more information about. And I would even go so far as to suggest that maybe we invite Deputy or Acting Chief Gonzalez to the meeting in September. If not, then at least in October. So either we come back in September and we kind of finalize our questions and have a discussion about it, or we think about that over the course of the next month and actually invite him to the next meeting. So that's something that maybe we could do some thinking about and make a decision about. I'd like other people's input about that. I wanted to use my time here to again express how much Talise, I'm just using first names because that's just the kind of person I am, how much Talise will be missed on the commission. It's been an absolute honor to work with her. And I know she had so many ideas, and that this is, definitely disappointing for a lot, for many people. I know that Talise has been such an active member of this community and will continue to do so. I hope that through her role, at MSU, that she'll continue to be able to play an important role in our community and our local government. And she will be very missed, and really tough shoes to fill. So really, even just running the meeting tonight was, made me nervous. So I think Talise has done a great job as our chair, and I just want to thank her for all of her efforts and all of the above and beyond that she always did. I want to thank you, Chuck, for recognizing the support that Liz and I gave you, but it was 100% genuine. I think that the city council had a tough task ahead of them. And the fact that we had 22, I think, people apply from the community to fill those vacancies says a lot about our community. And I'm sure that it was a very tough choice. The tiny little selfish part of me is happy that we still have Chuck Grigsby on the commission with us. I think, that, I would highly encourage you to run for the vacancies next summer. And we'll continue to support you 100%, and hope that you will be willing to consider. We're going to talk about the next agenda item about future leadership of the HRC, but I just want to throw out there that I hope that's something you might consider, Chuck. And what else did I want to make comment about? Responding to your suggestions, Chuck, about following up with callers. I'm just the very temporary acting chair. So I am very open to how we handle responding to public comment. I think different bodies do it in a different way. For me personally, I think it gets a little confusing when we keep interrupting people. So my preference is always that we let people have their say, but I do agree that it's kind of nice if they could stay on the line there. We have a chance to ask follow-up questions. So I apologize if that opportunity wasn't given to you tonight. But moving forward, I think we could have a conversation about how we interact with the public when they call in, and what process makes sense for us as a commission. And I'm very open about other people's thoughts and input about that. I want to welcome Crystal too. I actually have known Crystal for a while because we work in the similar field, and we have actually shared some families in our professional roles together. And it was kind of funny when Crystal started showing up at the meetings as a community member, always with such important things to say. It took me a minute to place who she was. And then she had to remind me, she said, Karen, you know who I am. And then I was like, oh, of course. So the fact that you are now a member of our commission, I think just makes us stronger and better. So I'm really excited that you have joined us. And I think you're going to really bring a really important perspective to our commission. So welcome. And
Karen,
you. And also to Elaine Hardy, to have you here. It's exciting. It's fun. I forgot you were going to be here. So when I saw your face, I said, oh, we got Elaine too. So yeah, we just keep getting better. So, thanks everybody. And just again, is running this meeting. If, please feel free to give me some feedback if I'm doing anything that's not quite right. I didn't get much of a chance to freshen up my Robert's rules. So very open to suggestions and feedback, even in the context of tonight's meeting.
Karen, this is Quentin. I have a couple comments I want to make.
Yep.
So first, I want to remind the HRC, all of us, to continue to keep in mind those folks that continue to be marginalized and minoritized based on COVID-19, particularly those as we return back to school, right? So continue to think about that in terms of our programming, continue to think about that in terms of our advocacy as well. So I think, also as many of us had the mindset of returning back to normal, a lot of folks, what will never be normal again. So keep that on the mind as we move forward as a group in our decision making, and also process, policies, and procedures.
I agree. The new normal. I don't know that any of us know what that's going to look like. Do any other commissioners have any comments at this point? Pat, Lassen, Carla?
Yes, Pat does.
Pat does. Go ahead, Pat.
May I? Thank you. Karen, well, I'm talking to you. I want you to know that your role in that Zoom webinar we did on disability was excellent, and your commenting on the history of special education and so forth was excellent. Well done, and I learned a lot from you, and just wanted to thank you for that. And thanks to Liz for a nice job of interviewing. It's something you do very, very well, and thank you. Also, Karen, on the subject of how we respond to public comment, you are correct that different boards and commissions handle it different ways. For many, many years as a consumer and advocate, I've made public comments of lots of board meetings or commission meetings. And I can tell you that when you put your heart into making some comments that are important to you and the feedback you get is zero, it leaves you feeling a little flat. Having said that, though, I understand the thinking behind not wanting to engage commenters, as it can sort of spiral into taking a lot of meeting time. But I can see both sides of it. But if I had a preference or if I had a vote, I would vote to not prohibit some limited dialogue between commissioners and commenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
And I just want to say thank you all. I'm honored to be here and excited for this opportunity and look forward to the work that you guys are doing here on the commission and adding to that. And I second what Pat shared.
Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. And I just want to respond to Pat. You complimented me. I thought you were fabulous. I honestly felt like the least qualified person to be on that webinar. And I know we have it as an agenda item, so we're going to talk about it a little bit more. And I'm probably going to put you on the spot, Pat, and maybe ask you to recap it for people. So I don't want to go into too much detail now, but if those of you did not get a chance, I know Chuck was on, and that was great. He was making little comments, and it was so nice to have the feedback. And I know that Chris Root, who's a community member that's often involved, was on there commenting and giving us feedback, and that felt really nice. We did that webinar the night of the East Lansing School Board meeting, and I think there were about 275 East Lansing community members tuned on to the East Lansing School Board meeting that night. And so we had a lot of competition for what was going on that night. But that was my first time ever being on a panel, and my fellow panelists just blew me away. And I really encourage everybody, it's still on there. The link is still there. And actually, I think Commissioner, Liz, you said something about asking that maybe we ask the city of East Lansing and the library to post that link so people could still go back and watch it. And I would really I will make that request and highly recommend, especially the other commissioners, if you didn't get a chance to tune in. It was really cool. And I know that it was kind of the brainchild of both Liz and Pat, but it was such an honor to participate in that. And our two other panelists were just fabulous. So I encourage everybody that didn't get a chance to tune into that webinar to please watch the recording of it. It was really informative and a really cool thing to be a part of. So
Are we doing that is that like every other month thing? Did we talk about that? Has that been, are we kind of still in that planning, for the next one, whenever that is? I don't know where we're at with that.
I don't either. Who remembers? I think we did talk about trying to start our coffee and conversations on Zoom. And then we kind of talked about webinars versus coffee and conversation. I don't remember making a decision about it, but I'm interested in people's thoughts. So.
Karen, my recollection is that we did not make a special vote on whether to halt those coffee and conversations, but I think because of the coronavirus, it just seemed like something that evolved out of that. But I enjoyed those sessions very, very much, and hope that when the revolution comes and we can go out in public again, I'd like to continue those.
I would go so far as to say that we did talk about resuming them in a Zoom fashion. And I think that maybe I would recommend that we put that on the agenda for next month and maybe officially make that decision and start doing some planning. And we can talk then about what sort of format that we want that to be, because I know it's, you have to set it up in a different way. I think the coffee and conversations could look like a webinar or could look different. And I would definitely suggest that we get that on the agenda for next month and have a good, robust conversation about that, because that's kind of what our role is. And I think that there's a lot that we could, a lot of input we could get from the community and a lot of expertise right here on this HRC. So yes, I'm definitely interested in doing more events like that, and hopefully other people are interested.
Aaron, as far as putting that on the agenda, as acting chair, you can do whatever you want.
All right, thanks, Pat. Anybody else have any commissioners have any more comments? Okay, that we will move on then to new business. And the next item is HRC leadership and future direction of the HRC. So mostly what I wanted to say about that is, Aaron let us know what's going on. And so we now have the chair of the HRC as a vacant position. And we also have another opening for a new commissioner. So I just want to announce to anybody that's watching from the public that we now have an opening on the commission. I think someone might have already said this, but I can think of about at least 10 people that interviewed for the city council position that would be fabulous on the HRC. So I really encourage people to apply. And I think you just do that online. Correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron. Aaron, can you?
Yep, you can. There's an application online, and you can submit that via email, or if you need accommodations for a paper copy or really any other accommodations, you can reach out to. Is Emily the link on there, Shelley? Yep, Emily Gordon at the city.
Okay, thank you. And I would suggest that we hold elections for chair and vice chair. I know we typically do that, I think, in December, but now that we have that vacancy, I believe I'm going to recommend that we do that we elect a chair and a vice chair at the September meeting. And so I will be happy to serve. I mean, obviously, I guess I kind of don't have a choice. I'm defaulted to acting chair for this next month, but I would ask everybody on the commission to consider whether they are interested and willing to step into the role of HRC chair. And we will make nominations and vote on that at the meeting in September. So start thinking, people, about who is interested in stepping up into the role of chair. Future direction, I did want to ask just for confirmation, because I got a little confused too. So we are not officially the Human Rights Commission. We're still officially the Human Relations Commission. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. It'll be on our August 11th agenda.
August 11th agenda. Okay. I was taking into consideration, what Alice Drager said and what that name change means. And I don't really have a lot. I just something that I'm now mulling over in my mind. I think that I believe that Human Rights Commission defines better what we do, because I think when we think of human relations, I understand that it's a broader thing, but I do think specifically we are charged with the protection of the civil rights of people in protected classes. So I do think that the name change adequately better describes who we are and what we do. But, and I just wanted I had planned on, and really Pat brought it up on during this agenda item, talking about how we want to move forward, assuming we're going to continue to be virtual until I don't know when. What I want to talk about here is what Pat already mentioned. I would like to move forward with maybe resuming our coffee and conversations and seeing how we can utilize our skills in a virtual way. Because I know that before COVID, Chuck and I and Carla were on the subcommittee trying to plan our annual event, and that had to be put on hold. And so I think we can just refocus on our energies on how we can move some of those programming ideas that we've done in the past into an online format. So I'm really open, and I would recommend that maybe people do a lot of thinking about that. I don't want to add it as an agenda item tonight, because I think we're going to move into taking a look at this at this ordinance for next week. But I will, put that on the agenda for next month. And so maybe people can do some thinking about how they see us moving forward, virtually, with coffee and conversation, future webinars, community engagement sort of activities, because I know that's a big part of what the HRC does. So who else has thoughts or comments about future leadership and future role? Chuck.
I don't have a comment about the leadership. I just wanted to jump back to the human relations to human rights name change. And I know the mayor was talking about, preferably he wanted to talk in regards to changing our mandate a little bit and maybe opening that up. And that's really what I had in mind when it comes to changing the name. Our mandate right now is kind of specifically talking about protected classes and the issues around that and complaints. And now that, I think in a lot of ways we've evolved to really be able to have people on this commission to speak on things that they see out here that really goes outside that realm and really talks to the current events that are going on. And so that's what I had in mind in regards to the name change, and then hopefully being able to appropriately be able to address some of the issues that come across our table as a commission, without it just being necessarily something that is a protected class issue or police report complaint in regards to that. So that's kind of what I had in mind to the caller that called in here this morning, or excuse me, at the beginning of the call. Thank you.
Okay.
Karen, do you mind if I ask a question?
Oh, please. I just step away for 1 minute. I'll be right back. So continue on without me, please.
All right, I'll say my question very, very slowly. This is Aaron Stevens. So I put that on our August 11th agenda. Well, I put it originally for discussion on
Aaron, you're going in and out. I don't know.
But I will only move forward.
In and out.
No, it's me. Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm sorry. My internet connection is really not great. I've been taking my meetings at City Hall, honestly, for that reason. I just couldn't today. So I will only go forward with that name change, or only suggest that, I'm only one vote on the council, but I will suggest to other council members at that meeting if the HRC doesn't want that name change to occur. If the HRC does want that name change to occur, obviously I will be an advocate for that, and I'm happy to do it. It was brought up to me at the last HRC meeting, which is why I wanted it on the agenda for the council. So honestly, it's your guys' lead. I can't speak on behalf of every council member, but I doubt that any other council member would want to go forward with that if that wasn't the HRC's wishes. So really, really up to you guys. But if I don't receive any other direction from this group, I will assume that the want is to continue on the name change from Human Relations to Human Rights Commission. So yeah, that's my only thing. So if anybody does have a problem with that, or might want me to table it, or make a motion to table it, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know.
If I may just ask to make sure that we are not setting this up for a failure in case the language contradicts what was described or in the ordinance itself. Yes, we are trying to achieve better relations via human rights, so to speak, and it can be used interchangeably. But I just want to make sure we are not putting it up for vote and discussion there and set us up for failure. Something to think about.
Thank you, Fasten. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that? I mean,
Pat does.
As a commission to the name change, and so I guess now is the time to speak if you, like Aaron said, if you feel like you are not ready for that. Pat?
This is Pat. Aaron, as you were talking about changing to human rights, I think I heard lots of nodding of heads around the table that there's pretty broad-based support for it, but that's no substitute for a genuine vote. We could do that later.
It's 100% your prerogative. Again, this was Aaron Stevens, but 100% your guys' prerogative.
I want to add, if I may please, that this name change and broadening up, I guess, the definition of what we do, I want to make sure that's very important that we also maintain what we do now currently and just really expand upon that. So not really changing something out or not doing something before or anything like that, but really just opening that up. So that's what I had in mind when I think about that. Just wanted to add that for clarity. Thank you.
I think I recall that at our last meeting, we have talked about taking a look at, remember we went back and forth on, do we want to move forward with the name change? And we also talked about really taking a deep dive into the description of what we do. And I think that is still something for a future meeting. So I maybe someone can help me clarify if I don't know that we need to take a vote right now unless someone feels strongly that we should take a vote, because I believe we were pretty unanimous in agreeing to the name change. But if people feel like it would be better to take a vote, let me know, and I can we can do that. I think we could amend the agenda to do that, or however we could do that right now, I would imagine.
Karen, this is Quentin. I have a question. So first, are there any other groups across the country or across the state that's done a similar name change and ensuring that their mission and vision is somewhat what we want to lean toward as we move forward as a group? I think it's important. Maybe we need to put together a subcommittee to make sure, the name change aligns directly what we want as a both and in terms of thinking about what Chuck mentioned as well.
Does anybody have an answer? Does anybody know about whether that's been done? Any examples of that?
I don't have any examples. This is Aaron Stevens again. I don't have any examples of that. But if that's what you guys want to do, then you can. I would say I don't, and of course this is just my opinion, so please take it with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily think that this is something that is. I think it it somewhat clarifies just via the name what we're doing here, but I don't know if it's the end all be all of situations. So yeah, go ahead.
No, I'd second that, because a lot of times when I was first getting on with these fine people on this call here, the name really was hard for people to kind of follow what we did specifically or what we were doing. And I know, not to put you on the spot, Mayor, but I know one of your things that you were doing or thinking about was maybe changing or talking about the mandate change a little bit. Do you have, just to give a point of reference, do you have a couple of examples of some of the different things that you thought when you talk about the name change, what that represents for us as a commission by chance, or no?
In relation to the name change specifically, Chuck? So I mean, a little bit. I think that it does to, again, this is like it's the conversation, like perception is reality, right? So it's really like when you talk to folks in the community on what's the Human Relations Commission do, right? And you might have to clarify what the Human Rights Commission is, right? I think it was more of a perception thing. If you want me to talk to specifics on like what the goal of the commission is, I mean, you can talk about like what are the specifics in that complaint process that you have. I mean, are there goals that are realistic there? Are there avenues that make sense that people can actually get action done by? What's the goal on community events? Do you want to have those on a regular basis? And I mean, that can be something that's like in the actual ordinance, or it can just be something that's like a general guideline of the HRC. I think my bigger point to that original conversation, I don't even know how many months ago now, was really just that, I mean, and for the better, I think the HRC has changed in a lot of ways. And so, if you wanted to set a precedent for future, human rights or human relations commissions, and what you do and how you're going to go forward, that you might want to, kind of set those guidelines, because right now, it talks about a complaint process, talks about protected classes, but it might not give so many specifics into, some of the other great things that you guys are doing. So that was more my intent. But of course, I also I get, and the reason why I had, after it was requested by me at the last HRC meeting for the name change, I 100% get the fact that, I think other commissioners have been in situations that are like, yeah, I'm on the Human Relations Commission. And they're like, well, what is that? And then, if you just the pure clarification of saying it's the Human Rights Commission makes sense to me. And so again, I'm just trying to be a catalyst for all of your work. And so if that's helpful, then I'm happy to do it. Right. That's kind of my take on it.
I thank you. I think about, we're all tied into the title, the names and why and all that kind of stuff. But if you're an East Lansing citizen and you're looking to make a complaint or you're looking to, have someone advocate for you, the first thing you probably would be thinking is human rights. First thing you would probably be researching is human rights for most people, I would assume, and I could be wrong about that. And so I would just have to second what you just said, Mayor.
Well, in terms of my own opinion as just one commissioner, I still support voting, bringing the name change to the city council next week. But certainly if that's not the will of the commission and we would rather wait and take a closer look at what we do in redefining our roles by looking at, how we're described online and all of that, and maybe consider the name change at that time, I'm open to that too. So I guess I kind of feel, because we've had a conversation about it, that maybe we should take a vote about it tonight. And can I do that without formally amending the agenda? Yes. So, okay, this is how I look at it. My suggestion will be that we'll have a vote in just a minute about, but I want other people to come, to give some input before we vote. The way I look at it is I would vote, we'll hold a vote about whether we want to go through the name change next week. If we do go through the name change, from my perspective, I still think it's very, very important that we take a deeper look at what we do, what we consider our role, and how we define ourselves and how we define ourselves to the public. And that is certainly something I'd like to see on, we've probably got a lot of agenda items for September, but at a very, very, near in the future meeting. So by me voting to change the name, that does not mean I don't want to take any deeper looks or anything. My understanding is that we've had this discussion several different times, and there was the will to change the name, but I don't have a super big attachment to it. I agree with what Chuck said. If someone's looking up to see, who do I make a complaint to? Who do I go to with this? I think the Human Rights Commission will stand out more and make it more clear for people to get who we are and to reach out to us. That's my opinion. So can I, more opinions, and then we'll have a vote.
Karen, this is Pat.
Okay.
I agree also what Chuck said. If we change the name to Human Rights Commission, I think that simply sharpens our focus and clarifies who we are and what we do in the minds of the East Lansing citizenry. And changing the name to the Human Rights Commission should not and does not, in my mind, suggest that we're going to abandon the other things we do that may not be clearly under the human rights umbrella.
I'm nodding, Pat. I'm nodding in agreement with what you said.
Thank you.
This is Karen. I'm not doing very good at my own rule. Liz?
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm usually opinionated, and I could go either way on this. Partly, like, in a 45-second Google search, it looks like Ann Arbor's made the move to human rights. Detroit and Grand Rapids have human rights commissions. Lansing has a human relations and community services board. Jackson and Holland has a human relations commission. So it seems like even across Michigan, it's split, like it's interchangeable language.
Thanks for doing that quick research. That's helpful. Carla, do you have?
I guess as a new member, I would, in my opinion, I think it would be nice to pause on the name change until we have a consensus of the group as to what our values and mission statement will be going forward in the scope of the lens in which we will be kind of operating within the community. I think it would be nice that we can present that along with the name change, if that is the wishes of the commission. So that's just my.
Crystal, anybody else want to chime in before we actually take a formal vote on it? Carla.
Yep, I would. This is Carla McWhirter. I think Alice gave me some food for thought and I guess an argument in favor of the human relations language that I hadn't really considered before. I think in, having a little bit of time to mull that over, I still think that the lack of clarity in that language versus human rights or perhaps even civil rights as a title for our group instead, I think that clarity is still going to be more important to me in terms of our future role, as much as that inclusivity, and softening that and, wanting to leave that openness to folks. I think having the clarity of, this is what this commission does. Again, I'll echo, I can't tell you how many times people have no idea what this commission is. And I also have to say, oh no, it's the Human Rights Commission. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it definitely needs a change, but I think that there's definitely some additional conversations that need to happen in the group based on where everybody seems to be with this tonight.
Thank you, Carla. Anybody else have any thoughts to contribute before we vote? Crystal? So you lit up yellow. I don't know if you're trying to talk or not. You're muted though. There you go.
No, I was not trying to talk. I put myself on mute. Thank you.
All right. Are we comfortable moving forward with a vote on this then? And can I just, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and ask all those in favor of moving forward with the name change at the next, having the city council move forward with a name change at the next city council meeting, say aye.
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 So that was Pat, Chuck, and myself. Carla, were you an aye?
I was not.
You were
Karen,
not.
I can take a roll call vote. That
Thank
might.
you. Thank you,
Sure,
Shelley.
bet. Sure. Pat Cannon,
Aye.
Chuck Grigsby,
Aye.
Crystal Davis Dunn,
Nay.
Karen Honey,
Yes, aye.
Carla McWhirter,
Nay.
Liz Miller,
Nay.
Basson Stoddard,
Aye.
and Quentin Tyler.
Nay.
It's a 4-4 vote.
Of course. Well, then I would say that because there's, I don't know how we handle that, but I would say because there's half the people are opposed, that it would make sense to pause on it then. I would feel more comfortable with that than moving forward with 4 aye votes, because I really would feel more comfortable if it was more the will of the board. I don't really know exactly what we're supposed to do officially in this situation.
I have my.
I could be mistaken on this, but according to parliamentary procedure, the chairperson doesn't vote, but also they break a tie, correct?
That's a good question.
I actually believe
yeah,
Robin
that's
feels that
correct.
the tie vote fails.
Tie vote fails, okay.
If
I'm not supposed to vote. So if I didn't vote, it would have been 4-3 and it would have failed. So yeah, I would say the motion fails then. And we will put some more time and thought into this and bring it up again in the future. Thank you, Aaron, though. Sorry, thank you for your work on this. We've got lots of opinions on this commission.
Not a problem, guys. Just trying to be a catalyst for all of you.
So it sounds to me that what we're agreeing on is that we would like to have some more substantive conversation and thought before we officially move forward with the name change. So we will put that on the agenda for the September meeting.
Just as a point of clarification, guys, so it is on the city council agenda for this coming Tuesday at this point, based on what We had passed through it at a previous meeting and a consent agenda said something. So, I am one vote. I will relay this information to the rest of the council, but that's still going to go up for a vote. So I can say now that I will make a motion to table the item, but again, it's not something I can guarantee just because it's, I'm only one vote.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. All right, does anyone else have anything to say about this agenda item in terms of future direction and future leadership? Because if not, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is consideration of ordinance number 1491, proposed changes to the disorderly conduct code. Does everybody have that document available to them? So we have several documents, and the most recent one I cannot seem to call up on my computer because I can't log into my Gmail, but I do have it on my phone. So is it the will of the commission that we go through this now and make recommendations and you can go through this line by line like the city council did? Or I'd like some feedback on that right now. It doesn't have to be a formal vote or anything. I think that it would not be a bad idea to go through this and look at some of these look at the changes they made and consider some of the suggestions from community members that have called in. Or we could agree, we could suggest as a commission that, as the caller suggested, that we make a recommendation that the city council table this agenda item for next week, but I do know that a lot of work went into it. So I would suggest that we all pull it up and maybe go through and take a look. Do people have thoughts about that?
Just for clarification, the one we have in our packet that has things like crossed out and added in, that was Nell's suggestions for continued changes, or that was changes the council had made?
My understanding is if you look at the document that Shelley included in our agenda, the first half of it is the work that city council did. And then the second half is Nell's suggestions, but they're not her final suggestions. The final suggestions are in an email that just came a couple hours ago that didn't make it onto the agenda. Is that correct, Shelley? Is that your understanding of that attachment? Okay.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So I've been looking at the actual document that's attached to the agenda today, just because that's what the public has. And that's what if we're going to go through it, I feel comfortable going through that. And really, like I said, the first half is the city councils, and then the second half is the city councils as well as suggestions from Ms. Kumic. So is there support for taking a look and going through this together as a committee, as a commission right now, and looking at some of these ordinances and giving feedback about it?
For me, yes.
Yes. Crystal says yes. Pat nodding his head yes. Carla, yes. Dr. Tyler, yes. Chuck. All right.
You start.
All right, so let me find it. So let's start here at and all right. So it looks like I think we should scroll down to the second half because I think it has the city council's, it's got all of it. So it's got the city council's recommended changes as well as Ms. Kunmich's feedback on that. So if you scroll down to page, oh gosh, I can't even read what page this is. Where it starts again, it says the city of East Lansing ordains, and it starts over with item 1. Can you all find that? And I could do a screen.
It's page 8.
It's page 8, okay. Would it be helpful for me to do a screen share?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm looking at the same agenda.
Okay, so let me find it. Leave. This is it. Okay, can everybody see that? Yes, okay, people are nodding. So, all right, so it starts with right here on page 8, number 1, no person shall, and where they had be intoxicated in a public place and be endangering directly the safety of another person or property. That looks like that was the language of the city council. And I believe that the scratch out and just the word endanger directly the safety of another person or property was this change recommended by Ms. Kuhnmensch. Is that other people's understanding?
Yes, that's my understanding as well.
Okay.
Still in the original language up at the top there.
I just want to make sure that this second part that we're looking at has everything on it.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. I think we need to, I'm sorry, you guys. I think we need to go back up to the top and go through the city councils. And we can refer back down to suggestions that Ms. Kuhnmensch made, but she also summarized those for us, just because I feel like we need to be looking at what the city council looked like. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like number 1, there were no suggested changes made. It's, you know, they did not make any suggested changes in prohibited acts. It says, no person shall be intoxicated in a public place and be endangering directly the safety of another person or property. A peace officer who has reasonable cause to believe a person has violated this subsection may ask the person to consent to a preliminary chemical breath analysis or other acceptable blood alcohol test. The results are admissible in a prosecution to determine whether the person was intoxicated. A person whose body alcohol content is equal to or greater than 0.08 grams per 100 milliliters of blood per 200 liters of breath or per 67 milliliters of urine at the time of testing shall be presumed to be intoxicated. So my understanding is that Ms. Kuhnmensch's thoughts on this were that
Endangering versus
necessarily be subject to a breathalyzer unless their behavior that they're exhibiting is considered endangering. Do people have thoughts about this?
right. So I noticed she changed endangering to endanger, and so yeah, I will feel more comfortable where it is presumed that a person has endangered directly the safety of another person or property versus could be, because that's more broader and subjective in regards to endangering. It's up to a person's opinion, and it still says reasonable. A peace officer who has reasonable cause to believe a person has violated this. So yes.
Hey, guys, if you don't mind me cutting in super quickly, I would very highly suggest, since this is going to be something that we discuss at our next week's agenda, and I definitely would like to have your guys' input, that one other member of the HRC besides Shelley be writing down what the suggestions are as well. So that way we have kind of, because I know Shelley's going to be probably trying to write down everybody's thoughts, and we don't want to miss things. So that's just like a small suggestion, because I want to make sure that your guys' voices get heard.
Someone willing to do that?
I also was just going to ask if we are going to move to a recommendation vote, if we are going to need to make a vote on every change, or if we're going to move to, we've done that before, or if this is a situation where we're going to make several changes and do one vote on the overall thing.
I'm going to go with a hard no on the vote on individual things.
I would
okay,
agree
but
with that.
but yeah, so for our process though, that's really important to
establish
what that process is. We're making multiple suggestions right now, just general consensus before we go through each one without like a formal vote, please no. But But ultimately, we're going to be making one vote on everything, so we need to be able to follow what those are. Yeah.
A second.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Is someone willing to take some notes like Aaron asked?
I am recording. But that's my ability.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. Now, I'm still a little confused. I'm going back up to the top there. So I would agree with the what Chris. I agree with Crystal's comments and with Ms. Kunminch's suggestions about in danger, about broadening her. I don't know. I mean, I agree with. I'm good with Ms. Kunminch's proposed changes and what Crystal said. That's just my opinion. Anybody else have any input about that?
So Karen, are you saying you agree with her changes in this document or the one she emailed this afternoon?
Okay. I need to get up the one from this afternoon then. And maybe, I mean, the problem is that she sent it to, here, you know what I'm going to do? Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to forward it to my, I cannot open my email, my Gmail on my computer. I forgot my password. So I'm going to forward it to my email that I do know the password of, and then I'll be able to call it up, and then then I will screen share that one. So if you all can just give me a minute.
Can I make a recommendation? No. I don't know if you have the opportunity. I mean, if you have this on your computer to do a dual screen or a side-by-side screen where you can pull up the current agenda and the ones you recently emailed and just split this screen. Is usually done by holding, right-clicking the Windows key.
So can you do that? I mean, if you can do that, you're more tech savvy than I am. I think that Shelley could stop, I could stop my screen share and you could screen share instead. Is that correct, Shelley? Can you give permission to anybody to screen share?
Justin, is that
Yes.
how it works?
Yes, I can also do that for you all, so you can just focus on the meeting. I just need the documents.
No.
Okay.
I'll forward that to you, Justin.
You're going to forward him the 2 documents and then we'll put them side by side?
I'm forwarding him the one that we received this afternoon.
Okay.
And then the other one is on the agenda, correct?
Yes, I already have the other one, so give me just a minute.
So I'm going to stop my share. Here we go. And you're all back. I want to let the public and everybody know that we did, our closed captioning does end at 9 o'clock. That doesn't necessarily the meeting end at 9 o'clock, but it will, for those that are, visually or that, that are not able to follow will not be able to follow after 9. So it would be good to have the goal of trying to wrap this up within the next half hour if possible. I know there's a
I want to check in with our Commissioner, Pat Cannon. Are you able to follow along with everything we're doing with the screen shares and whatnot? Are you good?
I'm listening as hard as I can.
Yeah, so just want us to be mindful.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chuck, for that, but I'm okay with how we're proceeding. I would say, though, if we proceed after 9 o'clock, and if there are people who rely on the captioning to follow along with us, then they are really sort of canceled out.
I agree. I think that we need to try to really do this as quickly as possible, just with due diligence so that everybody continues to have access to it. I think that's very important. So
is there a way for us to be more mindful, individuals that are relying on Relay, and maybe have some type of notification so that we get to agenda items sooner that they may be interested in, or I don't know. I'm just skeptical that we will get through this in 30 minutes.
Well, Crystal, I agree. I think we need to allocate a certain amount of time to each agenda item to make sure we cover that for equity purposes, knowing that we can conclude at 9 o'clock. So
yeah,
move forward.
So just to be clear, did I understand you to say that you support the notion of ending at 9?
Yes, from an equity standpoint, to make sure everybody is able.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I would agree, Dr. Tyler, and I guess we get to as much as we can, and if we don't get to it all by 9 o'clock, we will have to make a decision about what we want to recommend to the city council. I do believe that it's going to be a lot to get through in the next half hour. And yeah,
I don't think we're going to get through everything that's in here.
I don't think we are either. So
we should probably figure out what that plan looks like now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm open to suggestions. And I apologize that we did not do the closed captioning for longer, or that we didn't move the agenda along further. I just wanted to give, people time to have their say. So I'm open to suggestions for how we move forward then. If we do, I think it's pretty obvious that if we want to do due diligence, we're not going to be able to do this in 20 minutes. So
are we able to make a recommendation to council requesting that they table this so that we have, because we just received this, within the last day, the time to make a recommendation to them, or to wait for a recommendation?
I second Liz' comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that we absolutely could take a vote on that. And then the other thing I was going to ask, I mean, this seems like something everybody on the commission is interested in, because the other thing we could consider is forming another subcommittee. Well, I think it's appropriate to go through it as a commission at a future meeting, accept a motion. If somebody wanted to move that we form a subcommittee, we could vote on that too. But I am open, I would start with having a vote about making a recommendation to the city council that they table it. I know that a lot of work went into this, and I really hate to ask them to do that, but I also know that the city council meeting next Wednesday is going to be packed full with stuff. And so maybe it's not the end of the world for, and they don't actually have to make our suggestion. It would just be a suggestion that we make, a recommendation that we make.
And I just and I don't like to chime in all the time, and I've been trying to mute myself and keep my camera off, but we can bring this ordinance up again too. I mean, I think that a lot of the suggestions that are made and changes are really, really good, and they're right steps. And if the HRC wants to see more out of this, I mean, this can be brought up again to city council, and I can guarantee I'd be happy to do that. Even if we were to move forward with the changes that were outlined at next week's meeting. So like, even if it passed through, that, it's not, this is something that we have full control over. So it is something that we could without any issue, bring up again. It just might, take a little bit of time. So I even if it passes next week, you guys absolutely can have a voice on it. So.
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. Other thoughts, input?
Are we able to get started with reviewing? But I agree to make a motion to table this until we, as a commission, have an opportunity to go through it line by line, to make sure that we are all in consensus with the changes.
I agree, Crystal, and I think I will call for a vote on that in just a minute. I heard you asking if we should get started on it tonight. Quite honestly, it's 8:40 already. I personally feel we might be best off just waiting and having some time in the next month to really review it, so that when we meet next month, we're really ready with suggestions. And it will probably go quicker if we review it next month, once we've all had a chance to go through it and come up with our own thoughts and suggestions, instead of, I did look at this earlier, but there's a lot there. So Chuck?
No, I was just going to second what you just said.
Okay. All right, then it's anybody else have any thoughts before I make a motion? Yes, Dr. Tyler.
Yes, just a question that Commissioner Miller posed in the chat box. Do we all receive that second email? I'm having trouble locating that myself, so.
Agree.
I didn't receive it.
Okay. I can either Shelley can forward it, or we'll make sure that, so Dr. Tyler and Carla, neither of them received the second one. Is there anyone else that didn't receive it?
Crystal, I haven't.
Crystal, you haven't either. Shelley, are you able to forward that to make sure that those three
Can
have
you
it?
forward it to the whole commission? I don't think I have it either.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
I will do that right now.
Okay. All right.
Ask a quick question, real
Yep.
fast. So the captioning thing, it seems like it's been coming up as a common theme, at least for the last 2 weeks since we've been on Zoom, and us being limited to the time frame. I know none of us want to be on here till midnight or anything like that, but it seems like we need to have a little bit more flexibility in whatever that range of time is. So we are, as Dr. Tyler said, being equitable for everyone to be able to participate, at least listen in onto what we're doing. How does that process work with us? Do we have flexibility in expanding that time and not it just be an issue, just having it, because it seems like it's frustrating me because this is the second time that we kind of, last when we were able to get our stuff done, but we kind of rushed it in the last few minutes there and we're bound by that clock. So I just was curious about the process.
Shelley, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, this is what I know. I know that we have to pre-schedule a time period with closed captioning and set the appointment. Last month, we scheduled 3 hours. There's a cost by the half of an hour, I believe. I believe it's, I guess I don't want to misspeak and say the wrong amount. But so we schedule it and they try to assign somebody to do that task. And then if the meeting begins to run long, the Zoom person behind the scenes can contact the closed captioning folks and ask them if they can extend it. My understanding is sometimes they're able to extend closed captioning and sometimes they're not. So it's not, it has to be kind of, Chuck, you're muted, I believe.
Oh yeah, he's muted. For the record, can we get what time the closed captioning actually started? Because I feel like it was delayed with our meeting, started this meeting.
I think it was too today due to technical difficulties.
Just for clarification on that point, the captioning was happening, it just was not being directly linked to the Zoom meeting because I had to provide the captioning service an updated token to actually project into the meeting. So they were working at 7. We just weren't getting the product of their work.
On technical difficulties.
I will say that moving forward, I absolutely agree. This should not keep happening. I know that Shelley had let me know that she had the closed captioning till 9, and and looking at the agenda, it looked like a relatively short agenda, and I agreed with that. So I apologize on behalf of the commission that was probably a bad judgment call, and that we probably should have just taken on the extra expense of having the closed captioning for longer. And I will definitely make sure that does not happen next month, but we'll have to have a conversation about how we figure out how long we want. I mean, tonight, probably 3 hours would have probably been more appropriate for tonight. And so we'll figure that out better for the September meeting.
Karen, this is
Yes.
Pat. My recollection is 2 or 3 months ago, maybe more, an issue arose where we were receiving edited documents the afternoon of our meeting. And after some conversation, I think we passed a motion that if anything is to be brought to the commission, it needs to be received at Shelley's desk by the end of the previous day's afternoon. Does that sound familiar to you, Shelley?
Yes, it does, Pat. It might have even been 48 hours, actually.
Yeah, it was 48 hours.
Yeah.
Sorry, not necessarily adding to that comment, and maybe this goes into an earlier agenda item. In being mindful of the time that we have here, I think it's important for us to move forward with more restructuring around, we talked about time comments with the public comment. I think it's important too for us to limit our comment and set a time agenda if possible, as well as set time limits to discussion. I think most of the opportunity for the caption was used up during our comments and appraisal, which is needed to definitely affirm people's contributions here. definitely because it's voluntary work as well, it's passion work. But I think going forward, just to be more efficient, just to have a timed agenda and set time limits to discussion and comments would be more helpful of us being more efficient as a commission.
I would agree with that, Crystal. I think that's a good idea moving forward.
Yeah, as a point of just general procedure, I would suggested times I think are okay. I would avoid making firm time limits on discussion on items, just as that might. This is a public meeting, so I think that I think suggested times make sense, but having firm outlines on that might not be something that is permissible. But I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, I believe Robert rules do allow you to, once a time is running down, to make a motion to extend the time so that we are mindful for the agenda items that we are bumping. If we do go over, allow time for a particular agenda item.
Great, awesome.
Anybody else?
I think really just a reminder for everyone to be mindful going forward. You know, as much as we want to acknowledge folks' contributions and you know, kind of have those niceties, I think the reminder of let's get to business, let's do what we need to do, I think would be a good one for everyone, so that we can be mindful of how much time we are using for the closed captioning services.
Anybody else have any comments? Okay, then does someone want to make a motion about requesting that the city council table this agenda item till a future date so that we have a chance to discuss it as a commission and make recommendations? I would entertain a motion if somebody would like to make one.
Chuck is making the motion and mute.
Oh, Pat, you're muted if you're speaking. No. Carla, you're usually our motion person.
I'm seeing Chuck speaking, but I can't hear him.
Oh, Chuck, you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Yep.
No, I'm just a little confused because I thought from what the mayor said that it's not really necessary because they're going to make their decision and do what they need to do next week. But then we would still be able to go back in and still weigh in on our meeting going forward on September 11th, if I'm not mistaken. To your
Well,
motion.
my understanding of what Mayor Stevens was saying was that we could make a recommendation that they table it and they can choose whether to do that or not. But he was reassuring us that if they don't table it, that we will have a chance to go back to it. So that was my understanding, and I would recommend that we still go forward with making a motion. But if people don't agree with that, we can just agree to discuss it next month and ask them to bring it back up. So I wasn't
necessarily disagreeing with the Chair. I was just trying to understand, just have clarity.
Sure. Well, then why don't people give me their thoughts about that?
I think there's some value to making the request. I think having the reassurance from Mayor Stevens, you know, that if our request is not followed through on by council, that it's not like that's the end of the conversation, is a valuable one. But I think personally, I still want to make that request.
I agree. And it also serves notice on council that we want to weigh in on this and we're serious about it, but we're not quite ready.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, Carla.
I'll make a motion to request that council tables any decisions on Ordinance 1491 until the Human Relations Commission can review and make a recommendation to those changes at their September meeting.
Do I have a second?
I would offer a friendly amendment. I don't know, did you say 1492 or is it 1491?
One.
Okay.
1491.
Okay, I misheard then. I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. We are going to submit a recommendation to the city council that they table 1491 to a future meeting till we have the chance to contribute our thoughts, and we will put it on the agenda the next meeting. And we'll be more mindful, we'll figure something out. We'll be more mindful of the closed captioning and of moving through the agenda at a quicker pace. With me as the chair, that might not be real successful, guys. So that's why y'all got to be really thinking about who wants to offer themselves up as the new chair of the Human Relations Commission. Someone less verbose than me, probably.
Again, I'll just say, like, you know, I think this is an important ordinance. I think that your guys' input is really, really valuable. So, you know, again, whether or not it is actually tabled at next week's meeting, this is something that you guys can weigh in on. I think that the prerogative of the HRC, Human Relations or Human Rights, should be to be reviewing ordinances through an equity lens. And so, you know, it doesn't just count for this ordinance too. It counts on for stuff that's not even on our agenda yet, you know, but you might want on our agenda. So, you know, if there are ordinances or city codes or anything like that you really want to see, I mean, that I said, you know, when I first got this liaison position 2 and some odd years ago, that I really wanted to move to a place where the HRC was recommending, you know, to the city council policy. And so, you know, I am very, very happy to receive that. And I'm really looking forward to that becoming a reality, as it has in the past, and I'm sure it will in the future. So
Thank you, Mayor Stevens. We appreciate your support. All right, moving on to old business 6.1, status of city council resolution committing to action to review, engage, report, and reform policing policies in the city of East Lansing. Shelley?
I believe, Karen, this was something you wanted to give an update on regarding actions and motions made at the last meeting.
Oh, right. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So Chuck and Talise and I had formed a subcommittee to make recommendations about which, and we all passed it unanimously, about requesting video coverage and reports from use of force. And just because of everything that's been going on, the three of us were unable to finalize that, but that will be finalized and submitted to Aaron and to Mayor Stevens and to Shelley by Friday. So I just wanted to give you that update. And Chuck and I will be finalizing that decision tomorrow. We've had a lot of great discussion about it. And you will have that by Friday, Mayor Stevens and Shelley, okay? And then for our last agenda item, we've kind of already addressed this a little bit, but I just, webinar follow-up, I just wanted to again thank Liz Miller, who was our moderator and did a fabulous job, who also found us, our two amazing panelists. And I want to thank Pat for his amazing contributions, so thoughtful, sharing both his professional and his personal history. And like I said, encourage everybody to get a chance to look at that if they didn't. Thank Chuck again for tuning in, and ask that they be publicly posted so that other people have access to it. I think it was just on the Facebook post. So Pat, do you want to say anything about the webinar? I don't know, Pat's offline right now. Liz, do you have any follow-up or comments about the webinar?
Yeah, I just want to say that Michigan Disability Rights Council was a really phenomenal community partner in finding our panelists, Lucia Rios and Dominic Haper. They were both outstanding speakers with really different perspectives within the disability justice community and leadership. And I would love if you know, Shelley and Elaine, if the city Facebook account and maybe if you could send it to the library Facebook account to share that YouTube link, it was such, not just like the history of the ADA, but it was really a disability justice primer, and is a great resource for folks who maybe haven't learned a lot about the disability community or equity issues with that lens. And my biggest takeaway was that, you know, in this time of COVID-19, we've seen a lot of companies, cities, communities suddenly lean into accessibility. So right now is the time when we should be asking what those practices need to continue so that it becomes about a continued accessibility, and we don't just go back to the way things were that end up leaving folks out, or making things less accessible. So even things like recording all of our city meetings and making sure that they're broadcast and accessible for folks is one thing that we've shown we can do, and should probably be doing moving forward. And I'm sure there's lots of things at a city level and city staffing level, but also from a HRC perspective to keep in mind as we look towards the future.
Thank you. I would agree. Pat, you're back. We wanted to know if you have any follow-up thoughts about our webinar that you were such a great leader in.
Well, when you put it that way, I enjoyed it. It was fun to do, and I hope that some of those watching and listening had a chance to learn something new.
I certainly learned a lot, so. All right, does anybody have anything else? Elaine? Muted.
Just wanted to just share a couple of things. Tomorrow is the 55th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. As you all know that we lost a hero and a champion of civil rights in Congressman John Lewis, and his work in the Selma movement, particularly the events of Bloody Sunday that really kind of turned an eye on the nation of the perils that African Americans were facing trying to cast a vote, was significant in that law being signed into that bill being signed into law. So tomorrow, the MLK Commission, along with the East Lansing Public Library, is going to be showing the movie Good Trouble on the lawn of the state capitol tomorrow evening at 6:30. So if we're working and trying to stay within that COVID number. So if you want to come, go and sign up for a 6 feet social distance space on the East Lansing Public Library's website. And we'd be happy to have you come and join us. We're also going to be showing the movie again at the Lugnut Stadium on 8/28, which is the anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech and the Poor People's March on Washington. So if you miss tomorrow, you can look for us to show the movie again later on in the month. And I just wanted to just make note that Council is going to be approving 2 resolutions on Tuesday. One, a tribute to the life of Congressman John Lewis, and the second one is a recognition of the 55th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And so I just wanted to just make sure that you knew those things, and that's it. So thank you so much.
Excuse me, may I ask who was just speaking? I didn't catch the name.
Elaine Hardy, RDEI.
Ah, thank you.
Sure.
Sorry, Pat, Elaine Hardy.
Howdy, Elaine.
Howdy.
Do I have to have a motion to adjourn?
Seemed like we just started.
It's a pretty short meeting.
So
All
moved.
right, thank you.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
All right, the meeting stands adjourned at 8:58. Thank you all for bearing with me through having to facilitate this meeting. I appreciate it. And I will get the copy of the videos that we're requesting, the reports we're requesting out to y'all when I send it out to Mayor Stevens and Shelley on Friday. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Justin, for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks, everyone.
Anytime.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you, Shelley.
Yeah, thanks, Shelley.
Bye, everybody.